This game made Darkest Dungeon look like kids play. I have a giant robot, and I'm dead. A lot now. And it's normal mode. Okay, let's get into Mechanicus. Mechanicus, I truly believe, in our journey through the Warhammer games, I truly believe, more than any other game we've played in recent memories, from your XCOMs and all these kind of games that are of a similar fashion, in your Darkest Dungeons, I truly believe, even Baldur's Gate 3, that this game was absolutely designed with save scumming in mind. Like, from the get-go. Like, they absolutely were like, you're going to save scum so we can be really hardcore to you. Now, it's entirely possible that I'm kind of just really exceptionally bad at the game. I don't think that's the case. It's typically not the case. Like, we make mistakes, obviously, as everybody does, but not to the point where you're just getting plummeted and plowed into the goddamn floor. I played Mechanicus yesterday for about 6 or 7 hours, something like that. I did 2 missions. I did 2 missions. 2. And the vast majority of the day was kind of taken up by one mission, which was the mission that I had to start the day. And this mission I was excited about when I started my play session because I was going to get a giant robot. I had noticed in my tab of units that there were 2 giant pillars at the back. And I was like, we're probably going to get something huge, you know, not a Titan or anything like that, but something kind of mega to go in there. And then suddenly this mission popped up where it had this big swole robo looking, for my Chrono Trigger friends out there, looking character. I was like, oh man, we're going to get a giant robot. And it's also just a normal mode mission. And we've done a few of these. Just to be clear, I've done a few normal modes by now. There were 2 fights on this map. Now, I will admit, my couple of 2 room choices before I got there weren't good. They did a bit of damage to my units, and I didn't exactly get, like, a bonus. I didn't, like, get any Cogus points before we started, or anything like that. So we went in with, like, a couple of my troops, not my good units, being, like, 2 health down. Nothing particularly mega. What proceeded to happen in this mission was the most obscene, brutal, unfair, nasty, I don't know, and I'd need to check this, whether the room layouts are RNG. I don't think so. I don't think they're like roguelite elements. I think they're designed specifically for their encounters. In certain encounters, like the one we'll talk about next, they definitely are preset. So I'm assuming they're not. But what they gave me was a very small 2 rooms with 1 bridge connecting them, and no cover, practically, like a couple of little alcoves you could hide units in. And I think against my 3 tech priests that I had at the time, something like, in total, by round 2 or 3, 12 enemies to deal with, of which multiples of them were immortals, which have significantly more health, and a destroyer at range, which was very hard to avoid because you couldn't get out of the way. And so... And also, no real access to cognition points, which are your action points. These are the ones that you can actually do damage with. Like, no real access to those that was in any way a satisfactory situation. And so, I have got in the habit of the last couple of missions of saving at the start of the mission, because they do have an autosave feature, but it seems to autosave when something dies. It doesn't save up until that point, but when something dies, it autosaves, which means if your character dies, it autosaves, like, as your character dies. So I'd saved at the start of the mission. Dudes, I was dead by round 4. Like, annihilated. Just absolutely annihilated. There was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to pick anything up. Like, the corridor was just filled with units that all did... Let's say my tech priests, my champions, have like 15 HP and a bit of armor. And I've put every penny of Blackstone into upgrading them, right? Like, at least 2 of them are, like, fully maxed out on one of their trees and can now go into alternative trees. So they're not, like, under-geared as far as I know. But the enemy hits you for, like, 7 damage per round, each of them. And there's loads of them. There's absolutely loads of them. And if you spawn in a troop at the end, which you have to save cognition points for, which means you don't take certain actions during the mission, then they just die immediately because you need them to soak some of these hits. Otherwise, your tech priests are just dead, right? That was the situation I was in. I was looking at this screen and I'm like, what the hell do I do here? Because I have a bunch of resources, right? I've got my, like, canticles, which I can use once per entire mission. So not per fight, like per entire mission. And I have one that will give me a bunch of cog points. It gives me, like, 9 cog points, so I can do a decent turn. I have a big heal, which is necessary if your character gets just blasted in the face at the start of the mission. Like, you can't out-heal that with the standard heals. And I have another one which allows my units to ignore all armor. And the Immortals have, like, really big energy armor. Some of them have massive physical damage reduction, which means you need, like, a couple of turns of ignore armor in order to get some of these units off the field. So far, I'm happy with my canticles. They might not be the best. I don't know. And I've loaded out my guys as best I think I can. They are more offense than defense, that's for sure. But generally speaking, I feel relatively good about it, and I need to make changes now. After going through this day, I need to make some changes, and I'm going to be assessing that in the next time we play. Either way, I died like turn 4. I was like, I'm annihilated. I'm absolutely annihilated. So I was like, I have to save scum here, and we have a code on the channel if you're watching for the first time. The code is that we don't save scum in any game. We don't do that. We live with our consequences. However, this is one of those games, I think, you designed this with this in mind, because there's no way you can go into this blind without knowing what's about to happen and survive. Like, you can't. You'd have to really have some pre-thought-out knowledge of what is about to happen. Like, what exactly do these units you've never seen before? Like, I've never seen Immortals before. I don't know what they do. It doesn't tell you. It says they're in the fight. Before you go into the mission, it does tell you, like, hey, you're going to encounter these units, but I have no idea what they do because I've never seen them before. So you can't prepare for that, right, on your first playthrough. So I definitely feel, and maybe I'm wrong, is that this game was designed that, yes, you should be save scumming, because we're going to put you in just the most atrocious situations that you're really going to have to trial and error your way through to understand it. And then your next playthrough, you'll be more than fine because you'll understand what's coming. But for your first time, yeah, you probably want to be saving pretty regularly. So I went back to the beginning. I had to retry the start of this mission, and probably like 7 times. Just the starting positions, like where can I go where I'm not just getting annihilated? Like I can hide one person behind a pillar, which allows just 1 or 2 of the units to get line of sight and blast him in the face. I can hide one person up near a Cogger's tower in an alcove, which buys a turn of not getting hit. I could put one guy over here who can hide behind a pillar, which blocks a lot of them, but the destroyer has line of sight, so he's going to take huge damage, and we can shuffle in between. And then, of course, and some people will go, oh, if you're listening to this like on audio, oh, I bet you went in with, like, a high Necron level. No, this was the 3rd room in the map. Like, we had 0 going into there. And it obviously goes up during the fight because you have to take many turns. So I trial and errored this. In the end, I was like, I need to make a YOLO decision here, which is to send Bals, who's our big melee axe-swinging character. He's got a lot of bonuses if you have no ranged equipped to do massive damage. I sent him up to the only cognition point in the room that gave you 3 per round. Because I was like, it got to the trial error. I was like, I just need more actions. I need to be able to put out more damage to clear the field of units. Like, I have to get the amount of units down because it's spawning more during the fight. So I have to do this. But this puts him in massive danger. Like, he can survive there for 1 turn because there's no line of sight. There's no way of hiding there. But he has massive movement, so I could send him off to a corner. So what I ended up doing was, like, having my melee guy go and, like, attack somebody, apply acid to them, and then run using an extra cognition point over to a far corner, which then baited them to attack other things where I could maybe use a troop because I got these extra points in order to get them in. Then run him all the way back to pick up the 3 to then attack somebody and then maybe take a couple of hits. And this is how I got through it. But ultimately, and this is where it got even worse, I won the fight. And I will say, seasoned players of the game have, like, tuned in because they're like, why is Mechanicus, like, higher in the Twitch category? What's going on? And we're joining in and they're like, this is an impossible mission. That was their opinion on it. I was watching in the chat. I was like, there's no way he wins this. Which is always cool because that happens a lot with first-time viewers. In nearly enough every game, our long-time viewers will know this. Is like how many times I've faced massive super bosses. And it's like, this isn't doable with this setup. Like, you're supposed to come back later. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to die. Blah, blah, blah. We won. But in the process, I lost Zoe, who is our, like, support, healer, range DPS, and usually the person who's picking up as many Coggers points as possible. I lost all my troops. Every single one of them. I just had 2 tech priests left, and they came out of that fight with a combined total HP of 4, I believe. It's 4 or 5. That was their combined total HP. And I had one more fight to do, which is the actual mission fight. So obviously the feeling is we should just leave. We should just leave. Like, we can't win. Like, there's just no way we can win. But curiosity, I can go to the room and see what it is, right? So I saved before I went into the final mission and went in and assessed it. Interestingly enough, a lot more cover. Only 2 cognition points available that are so far away you can't stand any units near it at all, which means you're getting 2 every 2 rounds because you have to send your scanners to get them. That's the only way of getting coggers, besides my melee guy being in melee range and being able to stab where you can gain an extra 1. That's it. But not a huge amount of units. 1 destroyer guarding the, and this is why I'm saying about preset maps, 1 destroyer that was guarding the quest location, but because the destroyer is like 4 tiles wide, it won't leave that area because it's blocking the entrance and exit. So it'll come out, but then it'll go back. So it's designed to block you off from just like running in and doing the mission. So it stayed there for the whole fight. I was like, okay. And then it had a bunch of units, but by this point we had like level 6 or 7 Necron level because of how long the other mission took. And I was like, oh my god. I think we had level 6, which meant that there was a lot of Necron spawners in the room. So we're going to get a lot of ads here. Probably something like 14 enemies to deal with. And I only have 2 tech priests and they have no health. So I was like, right, let's have a go and see what we think. So I kept my units really far back and I sent my scanners off. I just healed each other for the first couple of rounds. So we got some HP. And then I saw those Necrons behind me, but thankfully the units in the fight, the Immortals and Warriors, have very low movement speed. So they were taking quite a while to get to my location. So I then was like, okay, what I could do here is go up to this north area, which will give me some more room to play with. And that's got 3 Necron spawners. And I had the damage to kill them like as they spawned. So they came out of their tombs, I killed one, the other one came out, I killed that, and the other one came out, I killed that. So I got rid of those 3. The other units are slowly making their way forward. I've got 1 ranged unit and 1 melee unit. So I positioned them and let them come while I was building as many combo points, coggers points as possible. And then this cat and mouse game started, and then it hit level 7. Level 7 is Necrons respawn immediately. Like, there's no turns where you have chance to finish them off or anything like that. If you kill one, it'll just immediately respawn. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Because especially Immortals, they have so much health. They have 18 HP, which means they respawn with half health, which I can't do 9 damage in 1 turn, like, with my units. And I'm like, oh my god, this is brutal. Absolutely brutal. And I had to save scum again, obviously. I had to. But like, the tactical level of it really immersed me. Yeah, it's really hard. Really, really hard. And a bad situation. But you got to really consider every move. Like, how many tiles is this? And will it end up in line of sight? And sometimes I got it wrong because Immortals have massive range. They're slow moving, but have huge range. And I was doing all this cat and mouse stuff where eventually I cleared out one of the waves of extra spawns. So we've killed like 10 enemies. I'd also at one point scienced what happens if we run up and can we just complete the quest and get out of there? Because that's possible, because my melee unit has massive movement. So I was like, maybe I can get up there. But then it turns out another 2 warriors and an immortal will spawn at the end, which means you'll get annihilated once you go up there. And to get there, you have to run down another tunnel, which spawns another 2 warriors. And so ultimately, if you run to the end, you end up with 7 enemies surrounding you. So I was like, well, that's not possible. So we circle around the end. But then what I had is a fight where my melee guy got killed. Just at the last turn on the destroyer. We killed the destroyer before spawning the rest of the enemies. And I was down to just 1 guy. Talum, my ranged DPS. Now, Talum does have the advantage of one of his main weapon does AoE damage. It does massive damage to the main target and then splashes onto the others. And it also reduces their movement ability by half. And I had a long corridor to go down. So I was like, and he was positioned near the cognition point spawners. So what I had was like a shooting gallery. Where I was like shooting. And I managed to like bring them down. Not only kill them once, but then kill them all again. So that's what? 18 damage, 18 health, plus another 7. Plus they had energy armor. plus doing that half again. So, you know, talking like 50 damage or something ridiculous needed to be done, you know, to bring down these units. But I managed to do it, and I was like, I think that's everything. I think, and throughout this must have taken like over an hour. Easy. And there's just so many people like, this is so stupid that this is carrying on. And he's alive. And people are going, is he going to do it? Is this actually going to happen? And I'm watching it, and it's like, I think we've won. I can't believe it. And as I walked over to the things, I also learned, because I was AoE splashing, that killing the scanners reduces the Necron level. I was like, oh, that's how we could have slowed down the Necron awakening level, because it's at 50% now, and I have no idea how far away we are from the end of the game. So I'm probably going to end up killing all the scanners from now on, just to reduce Necron level throughout that we're going to proceed at. And then we did it. We won. And I'm amazed it happened. It shouldn't have happened. But I do want to... I guess the story here is this game is nasty. But we have to break the code here. I fully believe this game is totally designed at this point for save scumming in mind. And all the people ask is like, how do you feel about that aspect of it? It's like, I actually don't mind. Our code is self-imposed to tell a story... our story throughout a playthrough, right? That's the point. But ultimately, if the game is like designed with that in mind, you can't really play like, well, you can, like with self-imposed rules, obviously. You can't really play like Elden Ring without a weapon. You can, but like it's designed with that in mind, and it'd be stupid not to do it. So, and I did see a lot of feedback. It's like, it's absolutely designed this way. Like, this game is supposed to be played this way. And I'm like, I get it, right? It's the way it's supposed to be done. Because I was saving every time we like killed a unit. I was like, progress. We've made progress. Okay, we've moved forward one step. Baby steps are happening. But then what's weird, and I don't know if this is a detriment yet or a positive. The next mission, normal mode, gives you like the same difficulty level or banding as it's supposed to be. So far I've had easy, normal, and hard. It's free. You just annihilate it. No problem. Like, absolutely no issue at all. Like, you just chainsaw through it without issue, and you kind of have this relaxing, fun run. So far, I guess, there's an unpredictability to what you're going into, and the level banding notification of how difficult it should be seems somewhat meaningless. But definitely a humbling experience after my last discussion here. I did get the robot. I spawned the robot. He has very little health, but he does massive damage and burn damage and stuff. So I'll get used to using him. I need to, I think, coming from Darkest Dungeon, where lives are stepstones to moving forward, I think I need to care more about my troops and keeping them alive. And so far, though, in some of the really difficult missions, they've just been cannon fodder to prevent my units getting hammered. But I probably need to think about them in a more respectful way, so I can overwhelm some guys with more units, right, that just have more turns of damage. Because troops are really useful. You have one-time cognition cost to spawn them, but then their attacks are free. So it's a lot of free extra damage that you're getting with those units, instead of just using them as bullet shields, which is essentially what I'm doing. Well, that's where we are on Mechanicus, man. And wherever this mission goes, I haven't done a hard mission yet. Or maybe I have, and it's just the way the labeling system works. I don't know, but I will come back to one thing. All the discussion between the Adeptus Mechanicus is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It's so good. And it really draws you into the bickering and opinions and states and all that stuff that is about them. So all this stuff, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. It's just brutally hard at this point. Sometimes. Sometimes. All right? So I'll check back in with you guys later. See you guys. Bye-bye.